Hello, this is John Paval. It's Tuesday, 6 in the evening in Europe, noon on the East Coast, 9 in the morning on the West Coast. That must mean it's time for the weekly organ recital roundup of live streams we could find for you going on this week, November 19th until the 24th. The first of them is coming up in just about an hour, so let's get right to it, and let me show my own face. Here I am. Okay. The first of this week's organ recitals comes to us from St. James Cathedral in Toronto, as usual. This week, it's Peter Bayer on the organ. Peter Bayer, I have a separate photo of him, and I like to put up the separate photos. We don't have a photo of him at the organ as I like to put up, but this is Peter Bayer. Peter Bayer got his BA in organ performance and classics at the Catholic University of America, which I gather is in Washington, D.C. He's also a Bevan organ scholar at Trinity College. And he's now a seventh-year PhD student in the Department of Classics at the Catholic University, and more power to him as a former graduate student in classics. At 7 years, that's not a long time to get a PhD in classics. It's the Marine Corps of the arts and humanities, and hats off to anybody who stays the distance. I got out and got back into the real world, the active world of living out there outside of academia, but it's a wonderful, stimulating environment. Anyway, let's get back to his musicality. He did a lot of master classes back starting about a decade ago, starting at Oberlin, then McGill, their summer organ academy, and then he did a week-long program at Oxford, which was run by the Royal College of Organists. He's also studied piano for about 13 years. So he does recitals around the Washington, D.C. area, and perform in Rome. He got a chance to perform at the Church of Santa Barbara dei Libri on the restored Renaissance instrument there, which was a highlight of his career, I guess, because he put it in his bio. The organ is an 87 rank organ with 67 speaking stops, over 4 manuals and 6 divisions, 5,101 pipes. It was first built back in 1863, but the latest complete rebuild was in 1976 by L.I. Phelps and Associates. So that's what we have for you today, starting in just about an hour from now, because it's about 6 o'clock in Europe right now, and it starts at 7 o'clock in Europe, because it's at 1 o'clock in Toronto, St. James Cathedral, Toronto. It's the one of the 2 American lunchtime recitals we have for you this week. Then on Wednesday, there's a double bill, as is usual currently, at the Glasgow University Chapel with Will Briant on the organ, and at the Temple Church London organ with Oliver Hancock. And we do not have, as in the case of the St. James Cathedral program, we don't have the programs of the specific music they're playing, but I can tell you about the organist and the organs briefly. And for each of the organ recitals, we will give you a link to the detailed specific specifications of the organ for those of you who are really the hardcore organ-loving specialists. And we do resend this live stream out to about a dozen organ-loving groups on Facebook. So if you see it there, you'll see it there. But I recommend to you might not always see it there. So subscribe to us, and then you'll always see it. Anyway, Will Briant is a freelance organist, and not the only one we have this week. He's based in Glasgow. While he was studying French and Russian at the University of Edinburgh, he was the organ scholar at St. Giles Cathedral and at St. Mary's Episcopal Cathedral in Edinburgh. He studied the organ and the harpsichord under Michel Bouvard and John Willem Jansen at the conservatory in Toulouse, France, the Conservatoire Rayonnement Régional, the CRR is what they call the regional conservatories. And he has performed as a solo recitalist and choir accompanist across the UK and Europe. The organ he's playing, it was built by Henry Willis of the Willis family, yes, in 1927, and most recently refurbished by Harrison and Harrison in 2005. And before we slip away from Will Briant, here's a photo of Will at work. He's a redheaded guy. And he was very kind to us. We couldn't find his bio anywhere, and he went out of his way. I contacted him, and he sent us that bio that I just gave you. Now, now that live stream is at 1:10 on Wednesday, 1:10 UK time, which is 2:10 for all the rest of Europe, at 8:10 in the morning on the East Coast, and 5:10 in the morning on the West Coast. It's a little after midnight down under in Australia, though, if any of you Aussies are watching us. And I hope it's okay to call people from Australia that. Anyway, then 5 minutes after he starts, Oliver Hancock will be on the Temple Church London organ at 1:15 London time, et cetera, for the other times. 5 minutes after the first one. And Oliver Hancock, he is the director of music at the Collegiate Church of St. Mary in Warwick, England. He started out an organ scholar at Jesus College in Oxford, where he read for a degree in music. I have a picture of him at the organ too. I can show it to you. There he is. He's got a winning smile, I'll tell you that. Then in 2008, he became assistant organist for the Ely Cathedral Girls Choir. You know, we were telling you about the Ely Cathedral, which was doing recitals all summer long from May through October. They have a Father Willis organ there. No, I'm sorry. I'm wrong. It's Father Willis organ is at Truro. They're up in Cornwall. But they have a fine organ at the Ely Cathedral. Oops. I'll tell you about it in a second. And then in 2010, he was one of the first people to get a master's in music and choral studies degrees at Cambridge University, which is right near Ely Cathedral, or vice versa. And then he was a graduate organ scholar at Selwyn College at Cambridge for a couple of years, and worked with the Selwyn College Chapel Choir. He's a real choir guy, I can tell you that. He's toured much of mainland Europe and the US, both as a choir conductor and accompanist. He's broadcast live on BBC Radio 3 and 4, and he's the founder and director of a choral group called the Nelson Consort, which is an 8-part choir specializing in a cappella choral music. You can find it at nelsonsconsort.co.uk. By 8 parts, I guess he means first and second tenor, first and second bass, et cetera, et cetera. I did that kind of singing as a boy in a choir. The organ there is a Harrison and Harrison limited organ designed by them and installed in 1954. It's a 4-manual organ, and they boast about it having 3 52-feet stops, which are very low. And it was modeled on drawings of the Temple's Father Smith's organ from way back in 1688. So that's your double bill on Wednesday. It's one or the other, or you jump up and back between the two, which some people do when they are really into live streaming on YouTube. Now, we move on to, there are 2 concerts coming to us from Moscow this week. On both Wednesday evening and on Friday evening, the Catholic Cathedral in Moscow is live streaming via Art Bene 2 organ live stream concerts. The first of them is with this organist, Elena Privalova. This is on Wednesday night at 6 in the evening, European time, 8 o'clock in the evening, Moscow time, noon on the East Coast, 9 in the morning on the West Coast. So it's watchable for those of you who are on the West Coast. Elena Privalova is a Russian organist living in Riga, Latvia. She's a freelancer. Does not seem to be associated with any specific church or other institution. She got her training at the Moscow Tchaikovsky Conservatory about 20 years ago, studying organ and musicology, and spent 6 years there. She's done master classes with top organists across Europe like Cherepanov in Lubeck, Gast and Wolfgang Zehrer in Hamburg, Peter Dirksen in the Netherlands, Hans Fagius in Switzerland. She's also the founder and director of an annual summer concert series, Organ Evenings in Kuskovo, which is near Moscow, Russia, since 2010, so for 14 years. And she's done solo concerts in Russia, Latvia, where she lives, in other parts of Europe, worked with the Philharmonic Choral Capella Yaroslavia, the Baroque Capella Golden Age, the Chamber Orchestra Kremlin from Moscow, and the Antonio Orchestra. She's going to be playing music from what she considers the silver age of French organ music, as distinct from the golden age of Bach German organ music. Music by Louis Vierne, by Charles-Marie Widor, by César Franck, by Bollmann, by Guillemot. We don't have more specifics about it than that. And then on Friday evening, a little later in the evening at 7 o'clock European time, 1 o'clock on the East Coast, 10 in the morning on the West Coast, 9 o'clock in the evening Moscow time, there'll be a duo, an organ duo, being live streamed from the Catholic Cathedral in Moscow, playing what they call a Beethoven symphony, except it won't be a Beethoven symphony, although it may be transcriptions of parts of Beethoven symphonies. It's a duo between Anna Vetlugina, who is the titular organist of the Catholic Cathedral, and Dmitry Maximenko, who's the organist of the Anglican Church of St. Andrew in Moscow. They will be also accompanied by a trombonist named Igor Bakanov. I don't have a picture of the two of them, and the specific program I don't have either. They say that the program includes both popular and serious Beethoven. The organ there, let me tell you a little bit about the organ. It was originally, do I have a photograph of that organ for you? I'm not sure if I uploaded it for you. Is this it? Yeah, here's a photograph of the piping of the organ. Anyway, I don't have the manual to show you. This organ was originally built in 1955 for the Reformed Evangelical Cathedral in Basel, Switzerland. And in 2000, it was built by Orgelbau Kuhn AG of Männedorf, Switzerland, if you're familiar with that. I'm not, but if you're an expert, you might be. And in 2002, in the aftermath of the reopening of the Catholic Cathedral in Moscow and all of that, the Swiss Cathedral donated the organ to the Catholic Cathedral in Moscow. Interesting that a Protestant church was donating it to the Catholic Cathedral in an Orthodox country. But anyway, and so the whole thing was transferred to Moscow, wrapped up in clothing. And the clothing was a gift to the poor of Moscow. So when they unwrapped it, they were able to give away the clothing to it. There's more to it. The Orgelbau Schmidt Company from Kaufbeurer in Germany, headed by Gerhard Schmidt, installed the organ in the Catholic Cathedral, and they refused payment for the work. And during the work, Schmidt was killed in a fall from a scaffold. And it was his son who finished up the work. So there's a lot of legend and lore behind those pipes that you were just able to admire. Anyway, you have Wednesday and Friday an opportunity to hear this organ played in two very different kind of concerts: the French Silver Age of organ music and selections popular and serious from Beethoven. We then move on to the usual Friday night organ recital. As usual, this Friday night at 1 o'clock, well, I call it Friday night because I'm in Europe. It's at 1 o'clock lunchtime on the West Coast. the latest time of the day you're going to get any organ recitals on the West Coast, unless they're from some other organs out there in the West that we don't know about. And if there are any, please tell us about it. Send us a message on our diverse platforms. We're on Facebook, we're on X, we're on TikTok, we're on Instagram, we're on Threads, we're on LinkedIn. Send us a message about any other recitals you know of that are being live streamed. Anyway, it's 1 o'clock in San Diego, 4 o'clock in New York on the East Coast, and 10 o'clock in the evening in Europe, so Europeans can tune in for a Friday evening live stream. Canon Martin Green is the organist there. He's a marvelously sophisticated organist in the musicological sense, and he always gives highly interesting explanations of the pieces that he's chosen to play and why he's chosen them in musical terms and what he finds most interesting. And he does so in a way which is not offensive or off-putting to those of us who are not musicologists ourselves. So he's just a great guy, and I love his live streams. And it's always an interesting choice of music, and he knows it all, and he will mix in sometimes early American music and European music and go up and back between the two countries in different styles. It's just it's a great experience. The organ itself, which we give you the specs for in a separate link, has the longest history of any organ in San Diego. It was rebuilt in 1969 by Aeolian Skinner. Hold on a second, so you can see me talking a little bit, not just that picture. It's an Aeolian Skinner Opus 1495 organ from 1969, retaining the best pipe work from previous instruments going back to the 19th century. But it underwent some modifications in around 1990, and then there was a complete rebuild in 2012 by Quimby Pipe Organs Inc. Opus 68. It has 4 manuals, 98 stops, 86 ranks, 115 draw knobs, and 4,933 pipes now. Enjoy. This leaves us one more organ recital this week, and it will be Francois Olivier playing at the weekly 5 p.m. in Paris, Saint Eustache Church organ recital. Here's Francois Olivier. Francois has been the choir organist at Saint Eustache for the last 20 years, since 2004. He is also the musical director of a children's choir, the Petit Chanteur de Nogent-sur-Marne, the Little Singers of Nogent-sur-Marne. The last time that Francois played a recital at Saint Eustache Church was back in September, and it was one of the 5 best organ recitals of the month, recommended by the International Online Organ Festival, which used to publish a notice each month of the 5 best organ recitals coming. They're not doing that anymore. They're changing their planning. But if you love organs, all I can do is recommend to you following up online with the International Online Organ Festival, or IOOF. They have a website, and there's all kinds of lovely information about organs and all of that. We're all about live streams. That's it. Nothing more or less. Now, as for the concert, it's going to be a special concert this Sunday at Saint Eustache Church, because they're doing an homage all day long to Anton Bruckner. And here's the blurb for it. It's because it's something like the 250th anniversary of the guy. So what Francois will be playing in this concert is selections from, or the entirety of, Bruckner's 4th Symphony. I mean, the best information that we have from the church website is that it'll be all or part of it, as transcribed by Eberhard Klotz for the organ. So it's part of a day-long celebration. So I'm sure that Francois Olivier is determined to do his absolute best. The other thing I'll tell you about this, I have pictures. I have a picture. Here's this is a 5 manual organ. at Saint Eustache. It's a Vanden Heuvel organ, which was built after great controversy. There was another builder that had been hired to through a competition to build the church organ, and they screwed it up. And after 5 or 6 years, like in the mid 1980s, and they still didn't have a functioning organ. So they fired that guy, and then they brought in Vanden Heuvel, which together with Guillou, who was the organist at the time, put together a 1-stop 5-manual organ with special features added into it that Guillou, as an organist, wanted to have thrown in. Here's a picture of the pipework of that organ. When you go to these recitals, which I've been to, I go to them when I'm in Paris. The ceiling in Saint Eustache Church it's got to be 5 stories high. It's enormously high, and it's a very long church. It's like a city block long, like a typical American city block long. It's a very long church, and they get hundreds of people. Several hundred people. I mean, every seat that they have set aside in one half of the church is filled with people sitting there, and there are people standing in the back. You look at some of these other live streams, these lunchtime live streams, you have a magnificent cathedral, a terrific organ, a great organist, and maybe 20 people. Well, no, you have 10, 15 times that many people at Saint Eustache Church. The Parisians love these organ recitals, so I can highly recommend them to you. I know that Francois Olivier is going to do a great job. The only hic, or the only hic, as the French would say, is the Vanden Heuvel organ really needs renovating, and they're doing everything they can to raise money for it. And if you want, if you go there, there's a link that you'll find on their YouTube page where you can, if you want, you can have one of the pipes. When they restore the organ, you can have one of the pipes named after you. So if you live like in Perth, Australia, and you want an organ pipe in the Saint Eustache Church in the heart of Paris named after you, or named after someone you love, you can get that done. Some organ lover that some friend who loves organs. Anyway, that's what we have for you for this week. I hope that you find some, or any of these live streams edifying for you. If you tune into any of them on YouTube, check out, see if the comment section is open. Very often you will find Access Arts Live is there. And if they are, love it if you would, just to say hi to us and let us know that we were the ones who sent you there. We're not making any money by doing this. I'm doing this because I believe it's good for mankind, for as many of us as possible to enjoy in real time, as a global audience, these experiences of truth and beauty, which these organists and other performing artists perform as an act of love for us to experience together. I think that's vital for all of us. But anyway, so I hope that some of this music inspires you, uplifts you, or just gives you a heck of a good time. Ciao for now, and maybe I'll see you in the chat box at one of these concerts.